So for a long time, you were a vocal skeptic of crypto, but then you changed your mind about it, and now you're an advocate. So what was the turning point that made you change your mind about cryptocurrency?
The regulator. What I started to see, I have many investments in financial services industries. Many of them are regulated already because they're issuing indexes and securities and whatever else. I cannot afford to be non-compliant. That's not possible for me. Everything I do has to be compliant by the regulator, otherwise it causes chaos in my business. Businesses, I have multiple investments. And so there was a period where the regulator was extremely proactive and not constructive on cryptocurrencies. And it was a very difficult time with the SEC and the other regulators in the US. So during that period, yes, I was a skeptic because I didn't anticipate anything that would change my mind if the regulator didn't. And then all of a sudden things started to change. I invest globally, so I'm very aware of what's going on in Switzerland, France, Germany, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, the Nordic countries. The regulators there started to open up. And I have investments in those countries, and in Canada, for example. So where the regulator allowed for ETFs that held the underlying being Bitcoin and Ethereum. So when I started to see that happening on a global basis, I started to allocate towards crypto and have not stopped since then. So when facts change, I change also. I'm not so rigorous that I don't have flexibility, and that's exactly what happened. And so now I'm extremely active. I have a staking desk. I work, very closely with companies like FTX and Circle. I'm an investor in FTX. I'm a paid spokesperson for them. I'm very active on the platforms. So, and I thought this year, here we are towards the end of 2021, I anticipated at the beginning of the year I was a 3% weighting in the operating company in cryptocurrencies as a basket. Today I'm over 10%. And a combination of increasing my position in staking and also the capital appreciation of these assets over the last year. Everybody knows that Canadian regulators are conservative and they don't make moves without talking to their global counterparts. For them to do this meant that they'd already had some kind of dialogue with other regulators in other jurisdictions and decided those were the rules for the Canadian ETF. That was the moment.
Okay, cool. So what is your current investment thesis on crypto? If you had to broadly describe what is your investment thesis on the crypto industry right now?
I look at crypto not as coins or tokens. I look at it all as software. It's productivity software. The projects that are going to last and be here, a decade away from now are ones that actually solve problems. So let's give an example. I'm an investor in Polygon. Why? Because I had a chance. I'm a very fortunate guy. I'm able to call up the leaders of these projects and these teams, and they return my call, and I asked to meet them anywhere in the world. In this case, we met in Dubai with the Polygon team. I'm an investor in software engineers. I always have been. I've been in the software industry for 20 years. They're very strong, and their mandate, what they decided to do, is to try and reduce the cost by sitting on top of Ethereum and aggregating transactions. So the gas fees are a fraction of what they would be if you're doing them one at a time. I thought that was a brilliant strategy, and I made an investment in Polygon. The same with Solana, the same with Ethereum, the same with HBAR. All of these are software. If you're investing in, for example, in Google or in Microsoft, what are you investing in? You're investing in software. Why wouldn't you invest in crypto? It's software too. And the regulator is in my view, going to eventually support these initiatives because of the tremendous economic enhancement and productivity they provide for the underlying economy. Of information are going to be very big in the physical asset world. One specifically that I'm part of the advanced thinking on, if you want to call it that, I'm funding a white paper on it right now, is for the watch industry. The watch industry, as you may know, is one of the fastest growing asset classes in the world right now. Multi-billion-dollar secondary market in trading fine timepieces. And we don't have any NFTs for authentication and insurance purposes. We want that, and so does the watch industry. So the idea would be, if you take a high resolution scan of the dial, you can identify that watch in perpetuity, and you could avoid fraudulent trading of a piece that was made to knock it off, and that's of great interest to all the great watchmakers. Just my collection alone I want to do that on. So the whole point is there's so much activity on NFTs, and yes, I'm an investor there.
Yeah, that's fascinating because you mentioned so many different projects and so many different coins, but your attention seems not to be too much focused on Bitcoin at the moment. So I'm curious to know, what is your view on Bitcoin? Has your view on Bitcoin changed since you became a crypto advocate, and how?
Yes, I have a position in Bitcoin. It is not my largest. It is close. It's up in the top quartile, though. Ethereum is larger than Bitcoin right now for me. I'm a huge advocate for Bitcoin. I treat it as an asset, no different than a AAA office tower in Boston. It's an asset. I don't consider it a currency. Now, everybody has their own opinion. My opinion is it's an asset. So I hold it. I don't trade it. I do stake it. But the point is, I'm not selling my Bitcoin. The challenge I have with Bitcoin, and the whole industry has this challenge, is we've got to deal with these ESG issues. There's a lot of criticism around Bitcoin because of the amount of energy it takes to get a coin awarded.
The situation with inflation. So, as you said, inflation in the US is hovering around the 6% points, and the Fed now intends to wind down the stimulus measures in order to contain this trend. So how are these macroeconomic dynamics going to impact the crypto industry, the crypto prices in the months to come, according to you?
You're being taxed at effectively 6% if you hold cash. Maybe you don't want to call it a tax, but when inflation's 6%, your buying power 12 months from now is 6% less, and that's a lot. And so we now have added pressures, and I'm no different than anybody else trying to figure out, where do I deploy this? Where can I get stability in this cash? Where can I find a way to hedge? And it brings me all the way back into stablecoin. So I'm a huge advocate for solving this problem with stablecoin. It doesn't mean I don't want to invest in the other blockchains or the other coins or tokens or other ideas. I do. But I can't do 30% positions in mandates of any of them. That's too volatile. So these issues are not going away. The dialogue is not going to change. You're going to see a lot of discussion about this in the first and second quarter of next year. And you're right on the money to be covering this. There's no question this is going to be very important. And I think we're going to start to see some moves with the regulator very shortly. Not just in the US. So we talked about Canada, we talked about Germany, we talked about Switzerland. Those regulators are all talking to each other. They're all talking to each other. If we could just agree on one stable coin between those jurisdictions, that would be huge productivity enhancement. And I anticipate that will happen.
Awesome. Okay.